Transdimensional Tuesday. Tales of shamanic soul sentience for healing our world. In preparation for today's virtual gathering, which is more than just virtual, as you well know, for we are united as a quantum field, non-local in nature, beyond form, without necessity to feel the illusion of separation because of a geological difference or geophysical difference in our location. We are here, all one, sharing the same soul sentience, the same awareness, the same consciousness. As all beings inhabiting all worlds, all realms, all times and all places. For we have realized through our own self-selection and self-transformative self-direction that it is time to be one and the same in heart and in purpose as shamanic initiates of this great work. Thank you for showing up, being present, and allowing your beauty to scintillate and cascade throughout the many realms that we have invoked just by our mere presence on this good day. So, as I was mentioning a little moment ago, in preparation for today, I went into my closet, which is like the Akashic records in third dimensional form in our guest bedroom here at the home, which also serves as my personal library. And looking through some files and papers, all of a sudden came falling down these old documents that I had brought with me from having been living in other parts of this country as well as in Peru, that speak of my early days as a child. And one such piece of material was this children's book that was published in 1953. And it was my favorite book, and my mother's signature is in front of it. Her signature saying that it was my book. And I recall being so excited every time my mother would read from this book that I could not wait to go to bed. And I'm talking from age 4 until I was about age 6. And here is the book. A Child's Book of Stars by Cy Barlow. And my mother would sit by my side and read the tales of how suns are formed and how those suns are the stars that are twinkling in the night sky, and how those stars possibly will someday be realized to have planetary systems around them. And within those planetary systems, the possibility of life beyond that of the earth. And I knew instinctually that this was possible, and that this was truth, and that this was something that I would eventually be on a path to self-discovery with. Hence, my experience of membership within a UFO contactee mission in Peru known as the Rama mission that began in 1974. And I participated in various outings in which we had some unbelievable experiences of three-dimensional communion with our star relatives from vast, distant systems than our own planetary system. Some of you may know these stories, and so I will not bore you with them today. But I do want to tell you that my fascination with these alternate worlds was inherent was a condition that I was born into this earth plane as a soul. For to me, it was never a doubt or some sort of fantasy only that there were beings from other worlds. And so I dedicated my life to contacting such intelligences, to befriending such denizens, and to opening up a place in my own life, in my heart, for them to find refuge, for them to find sanctuary, just like many of you have learned to do through your own shamanic apprenticeship in the Pachacuti Mesa tradition. Fast forward from age 6 to age 17. And it was the 60s. And the good old hippie that I was fascinated with expanding consciousness. And therefore, some of you know the story, I first was initiated with our sacred plant ally, San Pedrito, or Trichucerios pachanoi, through my own efforts, cooking this visionary cacti in the kitchen of my mother in Lima, Peru, and introducing my friends to it. I was 14 years old when I first began doing this. This was before I met my mentor, Don Celso Rojas Palomino, the most famed Huachumero of Peru at the time, when I took a surf trip up to the northern coast of Peru and to visit Don Celso in his very rustic and small little parcel of dry dirt abode next to his sugarcane field in the town of Salas in Chiclayo in northern Peru. That's when I began my formal apprenticeship in Camasca curanderismo. Yet before that, even though I did not know it was happening, I was apprenticed by the plants themselves. It was a path of direct revelation, for I was encountering realms of awareness that were very difficult to put into words, yet created a foundation, a substratum of psychic expansion, of psychic willingness and courage to not be afraid of losing my mind, to not be afraid of being a person who others in society would consider odd or strange, and to experience life as it unfolded moment by moment, rather than plan it to the detail as to what I would do when I became an adult. Because I realized down deep inside that being an adult was really being adulterated, losing one's joie de vivre and one's childlike awe and wonder that is the foundation of all true shamanic service. That combined with the understanding that it's a labor of love, that one cannot identify as being the source of whatever healing grace moves through one in service of the restoration and betterment of humankind. On the contrary, that one is just temporarily a passerby and a holder of these virtues and of these gifts of healing. So I tell you this as a little background because at age 17, I began journaling. And in my journals, some of them were worthy of publication in the high school literature magazine that we had at the time called Phenomenanda. And I went to a school in which half of the courses were taught in Spanish and half of the courses were taught in English. And this was for the English literature class. And I used to have a pen name, and it was called, my pen name was Diodoros Koronos. Now, some of you may know, who have studied some philosophy, know of the name Diodoros Koronos as the Greek philosopher that died in 2084 BCE. that influenced Aristotle, as a matter of fact. He's known as the dialectician and the founder of logic in the ancient Greek world. Diodoros Kronos, Diodoros meaning the gift of Zeus, and Kronos meaning time. And also Kronos was the Titan, the youngest Titan in the Greek pantheon that gave birth to Zeus. So in a way, it is a paradox having that name. And that's why I had chosen it as a pen name. So before I met Don Celso, aside from my incursion into the world of San Pedro or Huachuma curanderismo on my own, by just experimenting here and there in the time of the good old flower children that we tried to emulate living in Lima, Peru, that had a lot of influence from the Americas, from North America, specifically from the United States, and the entire cultural revolution that was taking place in the Bay Area and at Haight-Ashbury. And all of these things became like a pilgrimage. That place became like a pilgrimage destination for me and my friends. We thought that by going to San Francisco and to Haight-Ashbury specifically, that we would experience the equivalency of having gone to the Great Pyramids of Giza, or having pilgrimage to Machu Picchu and encountered the founder of Machu Picchu, Pachacutec, the ninth Inca. We had all these ideas of how these things were shaken out in our lives. So lo and behold, being the very poor student I was, and spending a lot of time at the beach because I was more interested in surfing than I was in studies, I encountered a person that came from Haight-Ashbury. He was like a troubadour. He was the idiosyncratic, the perfect, the epitome of the American hippie dude. The long hair, the beads, the sandals, the little carrying pouch full of his sacred medicines that had come all the way down from the United States, across Central America, down into Ecuador, and was making his way down to Chile and was stopping by Lima. And he just showed up one day at a beach that we were at, a favorite surfing beach. And he met us, and we got to talking, and he said, well, you guys look like you are good candidates for experiencing the food of the gods, although made in a laboratory rather than in nature. And we said, and what is that? Well, that is LSD. And I said, well, yeah, we've heard of that very much. So what's the story? Well, I've brought some very good white owsley from San Francisco down, and here it is. You guys want some? Sure. So we did a little barter there. We gave him some of my mother's very good food. She cooked a lot, and she had a lot of abundant food in the house. So I set him up there for a couple of nights, fed him well, and he gave us some LSD. So when he left, my friends and I, a core group of our friends that were all psychonauts themselves, decided to create a little proper setting and set in my home and experience what the world of LSD was that so many people in the flower child movement of the time were talking about as being the panacea, the wake-up call, the medicine that would help us move into a Aquarian age. So we were game for that. So we had this experience, and it wasn't all what it was talked up to be by this friend. It was one of the most grueling initiations and dismemberment experiences I'd ever had. I was 17 years old, still in the formation of my own identity and ego boundaries, and therefore that dissolution of boundaries with this very potent microdose of white owsley really sent me for a loop. Fortunately, in recollecting this, I journaled about that experience. And with this pen name, so that they didn't know who the original author was, I handed it to my English literature teacher just to see what she would say. And lo and behold, they published it in our junior year. And I came across the original publication. And here it is. And it is entitled Far, Far Away. And I've been moved to share this as my tale of shamanic soul sentience for healing our world on today's Transdimensional Tuesday. So allow me to read this from 1969, almost 1969, from Diodoros Kronos to you, and it's entitled Far, Far Away. Far, far away from reality, emerging from among cosmic dust and vibrations to an infinity of galactic clouds of nebulae and moons, and a single effect of increasing sound failing to bring me back. Pseudo-artificial setting evolving into a molecular structure of an imaginary world brought about by elimination of the human race. Homo sapiens mazed by an anthole of beehives. In deep thought, it is calm now. You can feel the colors flowing through your medulla and touch the music with your extending tentacles of your cerebrum. Organized facts, concepts, vitality, speed, 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 streaming down a wave of blood. The prism is in my hand now. The Gemini capsule is in space. The sounds are increasing in loudness. We're going crazy. Off with the music. On with the lights. Too much, too much. Freak out. Out of the room, the posters are following us. Beach, chicken, bread. Walk up the hill. Stop. We are animals now. Out in the wilderness of the city, the mechanized buffaloes are following us. They are chasing us, want to kill us. The river of black tar is in rapid movement, distortion. The buildings are breathing. Cosmic communication is developed with beings from other worlds, and electricity still flowing in the intricate conception of the mind. Keeps us going. We are zombies, led by a superior force dominating our mind. Not only 5 senses are perceived, but 1 million strobe lights all over. 6th part ends. Tired, numb, unwilling, wanting to go to your natal cave, frightened of larger animals. The park has arrived from nowhere. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 confused half-man, half-animal beings transformed into a mass of protoplasmic membrane, seeing faces melt and persons take unique shapes. Go home, try to come down, vitamin B, get amused, take a shower, go to bed. Can't take it any longer, please, no more. 48 hours pass. Hey man, wild, yeah, too much, far, far away. Now you may be asking yourselves, what does this have to do with shamanic soul sentience? What is this little glimpse into Don Oscar's teenage past have to do with being a Pachacuti Mesa tradition practitioner, an initiate of the great work? Well, if I spoon-fed you that answer, I would be doing you a disservice. So I ask us all to receive that answer as a story that was just recounted. A story of a young person fascinated by non-ordinary states of consciousness, who was unprepared to embrace a larger reality, an expansive state of being without the proper guidance from a time-proven lineage of shamanic living. That first experience with a synthetic psychoactive made me realize that the plant spirit within the medicines of our ancestors has a wisdom that other substances that were being popularly used in the time of my youth did not have. That the communication and the wisdom that is imparted by these beings that have taken on the form of our vegetative kingdom and plant allies in the world are ubiquitous throughout the known and unknown cosmos, and that they carry the seed of what Jung would call the enantodromia, or the great shapeshifting, the great changing, the great transformation that is the only permanent aspect of life: change, flow, flux, growth. Following that experience, I began to seriously understand the importance of having an elder in the tradition of the Huachuma, or the San Pedro practice. And that inspired me a few months later to go up to the North Coast and meet Don Celso. And upon which, meeting him, he recognized me and I recognized him. And the story goes, these shining one beings, these ancestral spirit helpers that flank me now, emerged out of his mesa in the first mesada that I ever experienced. And he saw them and I saw them. And he, by seeing them, confirmed in me that what I considered an individual personal experience is shared by many people with vista, with sight, with the ability to look into what is the outside world with the eyes of the heart, to see with feeling rather than with your optic nerves, to listen with music playing in the recesses of your soul rather than the cacophony of the outside world, and to not hold on to any one view of reality, to be inclusive in the way that we approach all experience, and to realize that it is not one's experience that makes the person, it is the person that determines the experience. After that first mesada with Don Celso, my apprenticeship consisted of sweeping floors, of cutting sugarcane, of listening to the same story over and over and over in the living room, in the dirt floor living room of his home, and to not having any access to recreational substances that I was accustomed to in the capital city of Lima, and to be tested by being buried in deep sand, wet sand, with a breathing tube and a cheesecloth over my face, extending out from that wet sand, feeling that wet sand's pressure and weight on my chest, feeling like I was suffocating, and feeling the maggots, which were muimuis, little sand crabs that are you find all over the beaches of Peru, that Don Celso had added into the sand so that they would crawl over my body. And trusting that I could die without truly dying. And in two occasions, one, without the companionship of the Huachuma or the San Pedro, and the other, in a full throttle visionary experience, having imbibed the San Pedro, that burial was part of my experience. And that burial was replicated here in the United States with my most advanced students many moons ago when we had a level 4 apprenticeship series that consisted of 4 9-day retreats, intensive retreats. And in a dream, Don Celso came to me and not suggested, but decreed that I replicate to the best of my ability this experience of burial with my brothers and sisters, apprentices of this lineage. And lo and behold, it was done. And many of those that hopefully are listening to this now shall recall the powerful, transformative, groundbreaking experience that ritual offered their souls and bodies. I say that not encouraging you to go ahead and commune with your plant medicines and bury yourselves with a breathing tube out of your mouth. I share this just to tell you that there's many means of expanding our consciousness that do not require any type of ingestion of any type of molecule. We have the food of the gods within us, for we are the banqueteer in the game of life. This is my Transdimensional Tuesday tale of shamanic sentience for this good day. I love you all. Deep, deep blessings.